My name is Joan Samuels-Dennis. I'm a psychotherapist in Brampton, Ontario. I am the author of a book. It's called 490, Forgive and Live Fearlessly. I'm a speaker and I'm also an activist. I help people overcome mental illness and through that process also experience a spiritual transformation. And there's been something that has been percolating and in fact is erupting within me that I want to share with you. It's an idea that I think will bring great results, and at the same time it's something that I believe is truly necessary and foundational to our movement forward as Black people. So we've all been in the midst of COVID-19. We have all experienced through video the trauma of the death of George Floyd and witnessing not only his death, but actually the horror of somebody else murdering another. I think a lot of the times we connect the pain to the individual who is actually dying, but there is a depravity that is present in the killing of another person that also causes us shock and horror that I think oftentimes we don't pay attention to. So, in the aftermath of watching the death of George Floyd, I know I myself experienced a grieving process where it was absolute shock at first, like how could that happen? Why did that happen? And then beyond that, like absolute anger that it could happen in the presence of so many people who were onlooking. And then beyond that, trying to go through a negotiation process of sorts to kind of just understand it all. And then finally coming to that place of acceptance. And I had to move through several forgivenesses, not only the forgiveness of David Chauvin, but all the people around and the response of those who are in authority, and then eventually the response of the legal system. And the unfolding and the aftermath of this has been all of the protests. And one of the questions I keep asking myself is this: what happens next? After we get out there and we protest, after we have all of these conversations, what happens? What changes? And what's the strategy for making change? And do we remain a part of a system that absolutely has failed us and continues to fail us? And I'm on the Canadian side, and I think oftentimes we can make it seem that the Canadian side is not as violent. But truth be told, we are all, and we have all, as Black people, experienced discrimination, racism, the disempowerment that comes with being told over and over and over again, you don't look like we want you to look, you don't speak like we want you to speak, you don't behave the way that we want you to behave. I was, in 2014, I was teaching at a university, and I experienced all of those things that eventually pushed me out. In fact, as I was leaving, there was such an assault that I actually turned and actually issued a human rights complaint. And halfway through the complaint process, I gave it all up simply because I thought, I can't waste my time here. There's more for me to do. And if I'm to look back on that now, what I can say is this, that when we're pushed out, there is such a great opportunity for us to actually embrace the thing that God wants us to do and to actually live our purpose. So over the last 4 years, I was learning and refining a forgiveness process that I now use that helps my clients to overcome depression and anxiety and PTSD in a very, very short period of time. And I cannot give credit to myself because incorporated in that process, that forgiveness process, is a spiritual process that brings a renewal, that brings a healing that just moves swifter than anything that I could conjure up in my mind. If I did cognitive behavioral therapy, it would never be as effective as the forgiveness. Now, some people do struggle with forgiveness, so some of us take a little bit longer to heal, even though we could go much faster. And I think that's what I want to talk to you about today. There's a lot of talk right now about economics. There's a lot of talk about diversity and inclusion. There's a lot of talk about, opening doors and making it possible for us to have access to certain funds and to have access to positions and, ways of making companies fall into line, and actually live up to what their inclusion statements say. But the truth of the matter is that unless we heal, a lot of this is just going to continue looking the same. One of my greatest fears is this, that as we rise from these very critical moments, these pivotal moments in time, that we will continue to be a part of a system and in fact carry on a system that continues to disregard the most disadvantaged in our society. What I can say about Black people is this: we are the most peaceful people on the planet. The challenge is, and the problem is, that we have been so violently treated that in a lot of cases we mirror that violence towards ourselves and towards one another. So we are suffering from what I would call self-hatred, other hatred. It stops us from doing certain things like purchasing from one another, trusting one another in our daily coming in and our going out. It stops us from being unified. It stops us from allowing one voice to come forward and for, say, a leader to speak on our behalf. It has divided us, and in many ways it has conquered us. One of the things that I think is absolutely essential for us as a nation to do is to heal, and for us to come to that place where as we heal, we can be in unity with one another. I want to share with you an idea that I have, and then I want to give you the substance of where that is coming from. And I'm hoping that I can engage you to join with me in what I'm calling the unity movement. So I am the founder of a not-for-profit called the Village of Peace. And the mission and the vision of this organization is for each of us to experience full physical, emotional, spiritual health and well-being, and for us to be able to experience a world that we can declare is just, and that allows us to experience peace. As we are embarking on this journey in 2020, we're starting a journey that I call the coming out journey. For those of you who don't know, we are at a point in time, a very pivotal point in time, where a promise that was made, a biblical promise that was made, is now unfolding. If you read the text that is written in Genesis 15, verses 13 to 14, our God has made us a promise. Abraham, who is the father of all the children of the earth, let's put it that way, was made a promise. And he was also told of what was to happen to us as the African and Caribbean diaspora. What the Lord said to him was this: your descendants will go into a territory, which is Egypt. They will live in a land that is not their own, and they will be there for 400 years. And after 400 years, I will come and I will return them to me, and they will come out with great possessions. And there's a lot of people who feel that this coming out is now a process of returning to Africa. I'm not totally convinced of that. although I myself might return to Africa. What I know is this, that what is going to happen is a spiritual return, and that over the next 40 years, we will be in a journey, a spiritual journey, as well as a physical journey of returning to our God. One of the things that is absolutely fundamental to our journey is healing. And I'm a forgiveness therapist. I'm also a truth, forgiveness, and reconciliation specialist. So I work with groups to actually do mass forgiveness. And over the last 2 years, I've been working with groups to talk to them about healing on a mass scale by gathering together, discussing the things that have wounded us, and then moving through a process that helps us to not only heal, but reconcile with one another, to recognize the ways in which the wounds that have been created are actually mirroring themselves within our community. So if we're told we're not good enough, what we tell ourselves and what we tell others in our community is that we're not good enough. And so I am embarking on a journey, and I'm hoping that I can entice you to join me. So the journey is this. I am aiming to form what I'm calling the Community Unity Council. This is going to be between 12 and 24 individuals who have an interest in community development, but especially great interest in unifying our community, building trust, building love between us, helping us to support one another, helping those who are downtrodden and burdened to be lifted up. This is my desire. That committee will serve as a strategizing committee, will also serve as the committee that rolls out a plan for building unity within the Black community. And so when I say Black, I'm talking about anyone who is of African descent. We are diverse both in our experience, both in our creeds, in our religions, in our genders, and all of these things. But what I'm hoping to do is to bring us all together using some town hall meetings over the next, however long it takes. I'm anticipating over the next 3 to 5 years, but that together, as we come into these town hall meetings, that we'll be able to dialogue with one another, that we'll be able to support one another in speaking out loud the wounds that have been created by racism, by discrimination, by the microaggression, by outright criminality and brutalization by other races, and some of the things that are more hidden, things like if we start a community and begin to build something, there are others that infiltrate and actually break that apart. Things like the conflicts between us that cause us not to be able to remain in a room together. These are the things that I want us to be able to talk about. These are the things that I want us to be able to forgive and heal from, and then to be able to come to a place of reconciliation. So I want to tell you about a vision that I had. Yes, I'm a dreamer, and I'm one of those people, if I'm completely conscious, like I'm talking to you right now, that sometimes I'll have a vision. It will tell me of something that God is desiring or something that's to come. Don't let it scare you. What I say to folks is, as you move through the forgiveness process that I teach, this is something that naturally happens. People dream because dreaming and visioning is the way that God speaks to us. One of the reasons why the African diaspora, why the African community and even the African continent has been so decimated in the way that it has been is because we are spiritual beings. And one of the things that has been a full-on attack is a spiritual attack that comes in the form of oppression in its various forms, things that actually keep us distracted from our spirituality. Because once we become spiritual, we become the most powerful human beings on the planet. I believe that the Black community, that the African Caribbean diaspora, that those on the African continent are the peacekeepers and the peacemakers of our world. And when we are in a place where we are forgiving, where we're loving, where we are respecting one another, we bring a whole different atmosphere to the world. And there has been an outright attempt to stop that from happening. But this is no longer, it's no longer in the control of anyone else on the planet. God is in complete control now. So what I'm hoping to do over the next 2 to 3 years is to develop a series of town hall meetings where people can speak their truth, where they can talk about the things that they have experienced, where we can share with one another in those experiences and help each other to heal. And beyond that, what I'd like to be able to do is to introduce en masse this technique that heals and swiftly heals. Like, I mean, swiftly heals, and will bring us to a whole different level. Ultimately, the goal is this. If we are clear, if we're in a place where we have forgiven, where we love, where we reconcile with our God, with ourselves, with those around us, what happens is we tune into our purpose. One of the things that we never ask when we're in a place of pain, when we're in a place where we're experiencing illness, when we're in a place where we're experiencing the bad marriage, never mind all the things connected to racism and discrimination and disempowerment. When we are in those places of suffering, rarely do we ask the question, what is my purpose? What am I here to do on this planet? And so once we move through the healing journey, we begin to ask that question. Hey, I feel awake now. I feel clear. I feel like I should be doing something, but what is that thing? And it is then that God begins to communicate with us. So over the next 3 to 5 years, what I'm hoping to do is establish a program, a healing program, that will help our nation to absolutely come to that place of clarity, absolutely come to that place where we ask the question, what is my purpose? There is a sentiment that Paul writes about. He talks about we are the body and that each of us plays a different part. I believe as the African nation and the African body that ultimately our goal, our purpose is to bring peace to the earth. But each of us have a different part to play in that whole process. So as we all move through the healing journey en masse, what will also happen is we become very clarified in terms of the unified body and the part we are to play in bringing peace. Whether that is you're a social media guru, whether that is that you are actually on TV speaking to people, or if that is you cut the lawn, or if that is you play basketball, whatever the case may be, that you actually fulfill that thing that you are supposed to do and make your ultimate contribution. So I'm calling for 12 people to volunteer and become a part of this Community Unity Council. And that council will then develop a strategic plan for conducting the town hall meetings, for creating a healing program, for then launching that program outwards and bringing our community to a place of complete unity. So I was going to tell you about a vision, so let me get back to that. I asked the Lord as he was revealing to me the part that I am to play, I asked him what was this to look like. And so here's what happened. I was shown a room. I wouldn't even call it a room. It was an open space, completely white. And within that space was a whole bunch of us, black people, African people. What I can say is it was a delight to see the colors in the room, the various ranges of colors, not only of our skin colors, but the actual outfits that were being worn. I remember seeing this one lady, and she had like on this Nigerian outfit. The head garb was so stunning. The frock she was wearing was tight-fitting, but it just was like, perfect, right? And I remember looking at her with such pleasure and just taking it all in. And then pretty swiftly, the images began to shift. And what I noticed was that there was a lot of finger pointing, there was a lot of arguing, there was a lot of hands going in different places, a lot of wrinkles in the eyebrows, just anger, contention, and conflict was in the room. I said, okay, Lord, I see what you're showing me. the conflict. Now show me what you would want. And just like that, the images transformed, and it was like there was a long lineup of individuals, each facing one another. And they smiled, they bowed respectfully, they smiled at one another. And it was just like that. There was respect, there was discipline, there was generosity, there was love. In between them, in between each individual, there was an essence that I would call a light, but it was so much more than a light, an essence, almost like a living, breathing thing that just floated between them. In 1 John 4, 17, 18, 19, somewhere about there, it talks about loving one another, and that as we love one another, there God is between us, in us, but between us. And so God was showing me what he's wanting for us as a nation. Then the line went from being just in front of each other to being a V. So they spread out like this. And so I'm standing at the front, kind of at the tip of this V, and everybody now goes out like so. And then I noticed there is a big old sun. I mean, the sun is right there, a big fiery ball that is right in front of us. I understood immediately what I was being shown. One of the temptations as we come out of our Egypt will be to look back as we feel love, as we experience unity, as we experience the healing that is to unfold in the coming days and years. As we experience, all of us will be tempted at one point or another to give the credit back to Egypt. We will be tempted to give the credit to a doctor, a hospital, some kind of academic institution. Whatever good health looks like for us, we are likely to look back to sun god Ra, which is over Egypt, and give the credit to that. Some of us are even likely in this time to go seeking and searching and actually go back to Egypt, as opposed to recognizing what this journey is really all about. God was saying to me that when I bring you out, when I bring you to that place where you love one another, where you are unified, where you're acting together, do not look at the sun. Do not worship the sun. Give me the glory, give me the honor, give me the praise. So we have a massive, massive task ahead of us. There's a task of coming together. There is a task of going out together. There is the task of healing. There is the task of paying attention to the most oppressed among us. There is the task of recognizing who it is that has brought us out. And then as we go into our promised land, whatever that looks like, that we are to be unified in our understanding of who has brought us out, that we're to be unified in our gratitude of what God has done for us, that we are never to give the credit to someone else, even ourselves, for the healing journey that is to unfold and is to come. So I want to invite you that if you have an interest in unifying our community, if you have an interest in helping us move to a place where we grow together, develop together, move out together, commune together, whatever that looks like, please reach out to me. My name is Joan Samuels-Dennis. You can reach me at 647-500-2229. You can also email me at connect, so connect, CONNECT, at drjoan.ca. I would look forward to hearing from you, and as you contact me, I want you to get in touch with me in both of these ways. I could send out a form, but it's really important for me to connect with individuals, to hear their voices, to hear where they are in terms of their understanding of the Abrahamic covenant, what is to happen, their understanding of what our needs are as a community, and their particular gifts and talents that they can offer to the council as we move out. One of the important things I want to say is this: you don't have to sit in a high position. I am looking for people who are humble. I am looking for people who love their community. I'm looking for people who can use their stories of suffering to motivate and inspire others. I am looking for people who don't mind a long journey and who expect it to be hard, but nevertheless will commit to the process, will connect with others, will make this happen. So give me a call. I look forward to hearing from you.